the complex that makes up the ruling National Democratic Party. It is a variety of buildings. It is always where the party headquarters or the party leadership meets, and we are told that it is on fire. If you hold on 1 second, yes, I am being told that it is the National Democratic Party headquarters, and it is confirmed, and it is in fact the building where just yesterday the senior leadership of that party met, including the president's son Gamal Mubarak and the Secretary General. That building from where we are standing, at least that compound, looks like it is now set on fire. I don't know what caused that fire, but what we've been seeing throughout the course of the day, as the protesters move their way in and out of the city, the police have been firing tear gas canisters. Oftentimes the protesters will pick up those tear gas canisters and lob them back at the police. So it is very possible that a tear gas canister may have been lobbed in some direction towards the building, or perhaps somebody with some kind of fire projectile like a Molotov cocktail may have been lobbed at the building. Don't know what caused it, but it is a historic and iconic image that you're seeing there. The headquarters of the ruling National Democratic Party, we are told, going up in smokes.
Ibrahim Arafat with me in the studio watching an amazing bit of footage coming from Cairo. Your reaction?
Definitely, a month or two ago, the results of the parliamentary election, were declared, and the National Democratic Party won almost 95% of the seats. Okay. And today, this image, gives you a different, understanding of reality. The National Democratic Party is not as popular as it was proclaimed. So people are really reflecting their feuds, anger, animosity against the political edifice, starting with the National Democratic Party. This is a front page picture, almost in all international media. So the anger at this level, means that we have moved to a level degree of violence. Now we are talking about arsons. So I'm afraid that the public utilities, and public places could be harmed, and not even security. And that was the mistake done by the security. It agitated the anger of the people even more.
Absolutely amazing stuff. It is all, pardon this phrase, it's so public. It's just this, it's so in your face. Everything you're seeing today, no one can ignore it. The government certainly can't ignore it if it looks like their own ruling party headquarters is on fire.
This is a different picture of Cairo, all people know. Cairo is a dense city, people can go around, every time, anytime. But today, this gives you a different understanding of what the Egyptians are heading at. I think also, we may see more pictures in the coming few hours or days, simply because, the disconnection made by the National Democratic Party and the government of the media has just postponed the release of those pictures. Today or later today or tomorrow morning, we will have more and more pictures that could agitate people.
Hitting live in Cairo, I don't know if you could hear what Ibrahim Arafat was saying there, but the crux of what we get into is that this is a different Egypt. Egypt, it will wake up tomorrow a different city than the one it was a different country than the one it was the day before. Not sure if Ayman can hear me. Ayman, you there?
Yes, Kamal, I can hear you.
What we were saying with Ibrahim Arafat there is that the crux of this whole thing is that Egypt wakes up tomorrow, if it ever goes to sleep, but it wakes up tomorrow a completely different country.
Oh, I think by every analysis, by every measure of the word, you see a very different period in the history of Egypt. One that's going to have a lot of questions asked by the people who for so many years have been criticized for being apathetic, for not caring enough, for not being active enough in politics or changing the course of their own destiny. Well, this evening you're seeing Egyptians, ordinary Egyptians, men, young, old, women, taking their own destiny in their hands, at least on this evening. Now, what is going to be the question on everyone's mind is, what is the government going to do? What is the government, what are the options in front of the government? When you talk about when you talk about the past few days, really, the government was in a very, very difficult position. And the reason why was on Tuesday, these unprecedented images that you saw in the center of Cairo really put the government in a difficult position. For one reason, they could not respond to those protests as being unprecedented, even though everybody knew they were. The government came out and tried to keep it as business as usual. That was the tone government officials struck time and time again. This was simply something the government was used to, and this was something the government did not mind. But if you looked under the surface, you got a sense by most people's accounts that indeed the government was rattled. And it is a question on everyone's mind. Why have we not heard from the president of this country so far? Now, and that goes back to the earlier point I was making. The people wanted to hear from the president some significant changes, not just the symbolic changes, not just that we are hearing from you. But had the president come out so soon and address the people, it would have undoubtedly created the perception that the government was rattled, that it was going to address these issues. Tonight, they can no longer avoid that. They can no longer avoid that question. They will have to address the grievances of the people. The question, though, is going to be who and how are they going to do that? You can expect a lot of criticism towards the Minister of Interior. He's a Minister of Interior that has ruled now for more than a decade over Egypt's police and security services. He has seen some of Egypt's most notorious terrorist attacks take place under his control. And at the same time, he himself vowed that these types of images and protests would not happen again. And yet here we are 72 hours almost after he made that promise, even worse images appearing from their perspective. At the same time, what can we expect from the Egyptian cabinet, the prime minister, under very, very tough scrutiny from the public, from others? Some people will certainly be asking for the removal of the government, but at the end of the day, when you speak to ordinary Egyptians all across its governorates, the buck really stops with one man and one person only, and that is the president of Egypt. The president of Egypt, by everyone's assessments in the country, is the one and only person that runs affairs. It will fall one and only person that runs affairs. It will fall on his shoulders to make the changes that these people need and want, and at the same time, whether or not he hears their calls for him to step down and for him to bring about the political reforms that Egyptians so desperately need.
And that is a president we hope to hear from soon. The word is that Hosni Mubarak will speak. Oh, you right, Eamon?
Yeah, come on. Listen, we're hearing outside the sound of, and again, I cannot see it because of the cloud. The cloud of black smoke has just completely kind of obstructed our view. But we can hear just from where we are the sounds of at least very heavy armored vehicles. You can hear gunfire there. We're not sure whether it's live ammunition or whether there are some kind of rubber-coated bullets, but we can hear from where we are standing, ammunition is being fired. There a massive explosion that you just heard. Again, we're not sure.
That sounds like a very loud explosion. Goodness me.
Indeed it is. I'm not sure.
How close does that feel to you, Eamon? Does it just to give us an idea of the picture we're looking at, where does it feel like it's coming from?
Well, listen, let me just give you a perspective of where we are. We're just a few hundred meters away from the Ministry of Information, and very importantly, the radio and television building. Adjacent to that is Egypt's foreign ministry, just down the block from where we are. We understand that obviously the Ministry of Interior on the other side of where we're standing, those are very critical government buildings. They're always heavily secured, not only by private security, but also by various security branches within the government, including police and others. What we cannot confirm right now where that direction of the explosions are coming from. We are hearing these massive loud explosions every once in a while. A short while ago, it seemed that we could hear helicopters hovering above overhead. There you can hear other gunshots. And amidst all of that backdrop, what you are hearing are the loud chants of the protesters. It has not died down at any point for the past several hours. The fires across Cairo are still burning brightly there. You can see on the bridge that armored personnel truck that was carrying soldiers completely almost now melted. The NDP headquarters just off to the left of where we're looking out also set on fire a short while ago. The cloud of black smoke. There you can hear another massive explosion, and it seems that there's been another fire that's been set underneath the bridge. So indeed, a very, very, very chaotic scene here in the heart of Cairo.
Yeah, you know, Ayman, we say chaotic, we've been saying unprecedented and historic. I would throw another word in there and say frightening. It's actually sounding quite frightening there. I know the people are going out there to protest and make their voice heard, but it is, especially as night falls, turning into quite a frightening situation.
Well, I guess the question, you're absolutely right. There's no doubt that fear is a factor on the minds of these people, but there's no doubt at the same time the fact that they have overcome this fear, the fact that they are now on the streets amidst this gunfire, amidst these explosions that constantly are just getting louder and closer to where we are. The fact that you can hear this and that the people are still here is really a testament to the kind of determination these protesters have. So if there is any fear among the people, it's certainly not among the protesters who have defied the curfew, who have looked down police forces, who have looked down water cannons, and who are now perhaps going to confront an even harsher crackdown in the coming hours if indeed the military does take to the streets. What you can expect, though, in the coming days is going to be a sense of fear across the country, not because of any particular change in the government, but what all this means for the ordinary citizens of Egypt. Whether or not the president heeds the calls of the ordinary Egyptians, or whether or not in some way they manage to bring the situation under control and tighten the grip of the government and the police. That, I think, is going to be the concern and fear on everyone's mind in the coming days if indeed the situation is brought under control. And for the time being, it does not look like it, with the sounds of these explosions that we are hearing, the gunfire, and the protesters still on the street past the curfew.
Ayman, thank you for now. I want to go to the phone and speak to Amin Iskander, who is a founder of both the Karama and Kifaya opposition party, through translation. Mr. Iskander, can you hear me okay? Right, excellent. We can go ahead with this. Mr. Iskander, thank you for your time. We are seeing pictures of the ruling party building on fire. What's your reaction to that?
This is a clear indication of the popularity of the NDP. This party has manipulated the seats of both the houses of the parliament, and it has also manipulated all the seats in the provincial elections. It prevented the Egyptian people from having a fair and just democratic representation. It wreaked havoc and corruption in the country, preventing all the people from taking part in the political and social activities within Egypt. It had an iron and firm grip, imposing a state of emergency over 30 years. They have gobbled up the riches and wealth of the country. That's why the headquarters is now being set on fire, together with all other headquarters throughout the country.
We are expecting President Mubarak to speak live to the nation and to the world. What do you expect him to say?
To me, I believe unless President Mubarak offers a firm promise that this is the last term he spends in office, and unless he forms a committee to draft a new constitution and to pave the way for true democracy and to step down, and needless to say, he might face trial for the corruption wreaked in the country.
But do you honestly expect him to do that? That's what you want him to do. What do you expect him to do?
I don't think he's going to step down, simply for the reason that he has been in the seat of power for 30 years, ruling the country by the military and emergency law. The regime has a thick skin. It has turned the people of Egypt into a fossil, if not rotten fossil.
This is a protest. All these protests have been led by the people. It's not been led by any political group. You are the opposition group. What would you plan to do now?
That's true. Demonstrations are led by the masses of people. Now the opposition are joining forces with the people. Some credible heavyweight political opposition figures who had paid a dear cost over the year of the NDP rule, they have now joined forces with the people. although the NTP is not national or democratic at all. Some, as I said, some credible political opposition figures and some activists have turned out this huge breakthrough. Definitely, victory is coming. We will yield in a breakthrough where we see all the symbols of the regime stepping down and standing trial. And we wish also that the wealth is gobbled up by them, millions and billions of dollars, be restored. The economical institution built by the late former President Jamal Abdel Nasser, which was turned into private property later, then can be restored.